Welcome, howdy. Welcome everybody. Come travel with me. We're going to take a little travel. It's May Day. And I hope, if you gave somebody a May basket, or if somebody gave you a May basket, that's kind of cool. May baskets go way back, like 4,000 years. And May Day is a celebration of one of the cardinal points, off midpoints of the cardinal points, so it's halfway between vernal equinox and summer solstice. So halfway between vernal equinox and summer solstice is Beltane, or better known as May Day. And May Day is when you make a May basket full of flowers, maybe chocolate, goodies of love, goodies, kind little presents. And you make the little May basket, fill this little basket up with little goodies of tender, loving care, and you pick out someone you really like, and you take this May basket over to their house, and you ring the bell or knock on the door, and you hide, or you flit away so they don't know who it is. And they'll come to the door and get their May basket. It's a wonderful gift of friendship and tender loving kindness, tender TLC, tender loving care, for someone you care a lot about. It's really cool. So if you haven't done it yet, you still got time to go and make a May basket and send it out or take it over to someone you really like. Could be down the hall, could be next door, or could be across the street. Could be in the neighborhood, or it could be miles away, 30, 50, 100 miles away. It just depends on where your heart says, go deliver this May basket to someone you like. And so you get a little May basket, so come travel with me, because I'm real happy because I brought to 2 different places May baskets. So my heart is pretty good, which I hope yours is pretty good, just by the feeling and the thought of the kindness of giving something cool to somebody you like. So when you celebrate May Day, you celebrate May baskets too. And like May baskets go way back to pre-Christian times, to the Celtic, quote, pagan times, long before the Western civilization was Christianized. It was very much a Celtic culture, a Wiccan and Celtic culture. And these were the traditions that were given to our culture by the pagans and the Druids and the Wiccans. So thank you, pagans and Druids and Wiccans. And come travel with me, because we're going to be traveling the May Day circuit today, and we're going to establish a circuitry of kindness and loving compassion in the golden eternity of this electronic campfire called GreenFire. So this is a GreenFire celebration of the return of spring. We have gone through winter, which was January and February, and we have just emerged from the Great Unlocking, which is March and April. And the Great Unlocking lasted clear through mid to late April. Around April 20th was interesting. 420 was the end of the Great Unlocking and the beginning of Earth Day in spring. And so this little spring of the well of remembrance, and the little springs way underneath the earth, filtering the beautiful spring water that you can drink, and also the little rivulets into streams, and the eddies and burbles into the upstart spring that we're now beginning to feel. And it isn't spring until you feel it is spring. When you hear birds singing, bird song, and you see the full moon that we had the last 2 nights, the Beltane full moon, which is called the Weesock full moon, celebrated in the East. It's an Oriental celebration, and the Easter is a Western or Occidental celebration of the full moon. The Wesak full moon is the Buddha of light, and that will be celebrated the entire month of May. And Mother May, the great flowering, great fertility. And so on the May Day, we also have the maidens dancing around the maypole, which is an ectophallic celebration of dance and singing and merriment, which goes way back to, again, 4,000, 8,000, who knows how many thousand years ago, back to the Paleolithic and the Neolithic. Stonehenge, and within that Celtic stone circle of druids and beings. All beings, not just the humans, but the fairy beings and the little ones, the wee people, and the leprechauns and the elves and the gnomes, and the ones who live in the land of fairyland or the wonderland, which is part of nature itself. So we're going to get into naming ceremonies, which is an important part of our language and recapturing and reclaiming of our deep ecological self, which goes way back before Christianity into our Celtic northern soul and Wiccan soul of the northern culture. And so that dancing around the maypole is also fertility rites, so bacchanalian, ecstatic dancing, possibly orgies, celebration of mushrooms, and in the Czech culture, the Hobie days, which is morel mushrooms, but it could be psychedelic, psilocybin, and other shrooms that take you into other worlds. If you're going to do that, I highly recommend that you have a person who you trust a lot and who will stay with you while you're doing a shroom trip, and do it with reverence and respect. And you only need to do it in a seasonal wheel cycle like such as May Day. Again, it's psilocybin, and stay away from datura, which is Jimson weed. But psilocybin, there's other ones as well, called magic mushrooms. And again, use caution. Be very reverent, respectful, because these are the portals or doorways to the gods, and they speak to you, and they speak to you from the stars, and they speak to you through all of nature, and they will speak to you in a liquid language that your heart can only understand. And so with reverence, do it like sacrament, much like you're going to midnight mass, or you're going to Easter Sunday Mass. It's because when you do shrooms like that, generally, most speaking, you're going through a resurrection, you're going through a rebirth. So you're going to need somebody to be there to ground you. And if you choose to do cannabis, which is an entheogen, and entheogen has the word theo in the middle, which is a god herb. Cannabis is a divine herb. Use it as sacrament. It's known as the Jesus weed. Again, use it with respect and as a sacrament. Preferably done communally, so you have communion with the Jesus weed. And that is part of the celebration as well. But again, do it with reverence and sacrament, and also knowing that it's a part of the sweet medicine of healing. It has all kinds of healing medicinal properties, and right now that's what our culture needs, is medicine that doesn't have side effects. And cannabis does not have side effects, such as hangovers from alcohol and much more violent drugs. Cannabis is not necessarily a drug, it's an herb. And seen as an herb, it's part of the natural garden of God. And when you do cannabis in the garden of God, you literally are part of the sound of Let Us Pray. Let Us Pray is a cannabis heart song. So that's part of the mist-filled path. And if you haven't gone out and opened your windows, please do, and go barefoot early in the morning, do. Let your toes get nice and dewy in the mist-filled path, and early in the morning hear the bird song and roll away the dew. You can roll away the dew, roll away the dew, roll away the dew, roll away the dew. So recently, in the last fortnight, which is 2 weeks, we've had 420, which was 1 week and 5 days ago. That's like within the last 10 days, 12 days. We've had 420, April 20th. We've had Earth Day, which was the 22nd, all of Earth Week, 22nd through the end of April, April 29th. That was Earth Week, and hopefully you did something to celebrate the Earth. And it's a spiritual duty, dear friend, always and every day. It is a spiritual duty to appreciate the beauty every day. It is a spiritual duty to appreciate the beauty every day. That is make Earth Day every day Earth Day, when we celebrate the beauty as our spiritual duty. Then we have a communion with the earth, and we can go barefoot boy again. And the barefoot boy loves to smile. That's his whole journey. The joy of the journey of the barefoot boy is to smile. That's the magical child come alive. So we had Earth Day. Then we had the Wesak full moon, which is the second full moon of the vernal equinox. First was the Eostar, Easter full moon. And then we have the Wesak full moon, which is the Buddha full moon. Easter full moon is Jesus. And then we have the Buddha full moon, which is April 29th, April 30th, May 1st, May Day. Then we have Beltane, which is another cardinal point. Well, it's a midpoint between the cardinal points, which literally means it's 6 weeks after spring and 6 weeks before summer. So this is a midway point, but also seen as the beginning of spring. May Day, celebrations all over. And the celebration of May Day goes all throughout May. So may you dance in delight, open your windows, breathe in the air, and find that centering in yourself and ourselves to literally breathe in love, breathe out peace, breathing in the fresh green air of the green fire of desire, breathe in love, breathe out peace. Breathe in peace, breathe out love. Breathe in love, breathe out peace. This is for the planet itself, but it's very personal. Breathe in love, breathe out peace. Breathe in peace, breathe out love. Breathe in love, breathe out peace. It's centering ourselves, returning to our center, their sacred center. Breathe in love, breathe out peace. Breathe in peace, breathe out love. This will center ourselves into this journey that we're taking together. Come journey with me here, dear friend. We're going to go on a journey. This is a piece that was just written less than 20 minutes ago. That's how magical this mist-filled path is. May it soak into your heart as rich detritus and compost for the joy of the journey of the turning of this seasonal wheel of the green fire of desire. This is called May Day. Another name, as I said before, was Beltane. We can say that 3 times. Beltane, 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 which is B-E-L-T-A-N-E. B-E-L-T-A-N-E, Beltane. B-E-L-T-A-N-E, Beltane. It's really important to get that within our hearts and our minds. First in our hearts, Beltane. Second in our minds, B-E-L-T-A-N-E, Beltane. This is called May Day, Beltane, Transplanet, Mesmerica. Students sitting on the Pentacrest in front of Old Cap, facing west, waiting for something to happen. Waiting for something to happen on this 82-degree spring day of Odin's Day, Wednesday, May 2nd. Sitting in front of Old Cap, facing west, waiting for something to happen. Waiting for something to happen. With the pregnancy of a spring into action of something of great social import. Waiting for something to happen. Waiting for something to happen. With the pregnancy of a spring into action of something of great social import. Entering great story, entering great time, entering great work, entering great mind. Not just this spring, which is actually beginning to happen. Not just this May Day, not just this Beltane, which is sacred on the commons by the sun and the green, which is sacred on the commons and the turning of the seasonal wheel. Finally, after the great unlocking, after mid-late April, something beginning to happen beyond just the time, place, space, and slight wheeling of the seasonal wheel, beyond the time, beyond place, beyond space, something beginning to happen. In this slight turning of the seasonal wheel, this is the great turning. It is up to us, each one of us, to see how this great wheel turns. It's up to us, each one of us, to see how this great wheel turns. This is the great medicine wheel. This is the great medicine wheel. A time when May baskets are caringly, painstakingly prepared with tender loving care and lovingly given, leaving it at the door and slipping away unnoticed if you can. Yep. This is the time when May baskets are caringly prepared and lovingly given, and we leave it at the door and slip away unnoticed if you can, forwarding your best smile into spring, and you spring with your gentle heels and your gentle feet lightly upon Mother Earth. You spring and you bound as the deer that you are, and forwarding your best smile into spring. What does spring bring forth? What doth spring bring forth? We shall see. We shall see. We shall see. Dear friend, by the sun and the green and the great blue sky, open this mind of Om Mani Padme, we sought Beltane, full moon home, hey yung yung. Open this mind as the window of fresh air restores our mirth. And the great blue sky open this mind of Om Mani Padme, we sought Beltane, full moon home, hey yung yung. Hey yung yung, hey yung yung, hey yung yung. Full moon of Buddha light, full moon of Buddha light, we receive, receive, receive. Say, I receive, I receive, I receive. I am, God created me in the light and the love and the glory. I am, God created me in the light, in the love, in the glory. I am, God created me in the light, in the love, in the glory. And we amplify our hearing. And we amplify our hearing. We amplify our heart song through the three Buddhas on the Pentacrest facing west, waiting for something to happen. And we amplify our heart song through the three Buddhas on the Pentacrest facing west, waiting for something to happen. And you can't find it in any headlines in the newspaper. And you can't find it in any headlines in the newspaper. This new speech is not fit to print, for it is written by the subterraneans and the desolation angels and the Dharma bums in the hidden channels, in notes from the underground, in the chapel perilous and the alcove of the heart. Way below the zeitgeist time, perhaps a gestalt malt or a milkshake up of the mind will cool all this stuff out on the Buffalo Commons. We amplify our heart song through the three Buddhas on the Pentacrest facing west, waiting for something to happen. And you can't find it in any of the newspapers, headlines, and you can't find it in any of the news talk programs, and you can't find it in any of the headlines. This new speech is not fit to print, for it is written by the subterraneans and the desolation angels and the Dharma bums and the hidden channels, in notes from the underground, in the chapel alcove of the heart, cloistered down underground, way below zeitgeist time and the currents and the current phraseology of the topical concerns. Perhaps a gestalt malt or a milkshake up of the mind will cool all this stuff out on the Buffalo Commons, out past the Cenozoic of Freudian east of the Mississippi time bandits and the Egozoic, out here moving toward the 100th meridian of high-low country, high plains drifter, just before the Echozoic, in synchronicity with driftless and moiety clans of stone people, with the Moog and the Maid people of blue pollen maize women and Kachinas and the great Masawa, teaching us the false migration of the gourd of ashes. The Wasichu, even though they have spokes of the great medicine wheel in the house of Micah, even though they talked of coal, oil, and uranium as the lungs and the blood and the brains of Mother Earth, and the Heshkes who would not be reconciled to the Wasichu ways of the white man, and the craziest of the crazies, the Heshkes, who would not be reconciled to the Wasichu ways. And all of this is happening underneath the radar, below the currents of the contemporary concerns, and all this is happening in this great seasonal wheel. Out here on the Buffalo Commons, out past the Cenozoic and the cynicism of the Freudian east of the Mississippi time bandits of daylight time and the Egozoic, out here moving toward the 100th meridian of high-low country, the High Plains drifter, just before the Echozoic, in synchronicity and tonality with the Narwhal of the driftless, and the moiety clans of stone people with the Moog and the Maid people of blue pollen maize women, and the great Masawa teaching us that the false migration of the gourd of ashes of the Wasichu, even though they have spokes of the great medicine wheel in the house of Micah, even though they talked of coal, oil, and uranium as the lungs, the blood, and brains of Mother Earth, and the Heskes, who would not be reconciled, to the Wasichu ways of the white man, even though they spoke of the true migration, these Moog, the Hopi, the Maid people, even though they spoke of the true migration and not being seduced and beguiled and subdued by the Silicon Valley technology of cyborgs and robots and drones, and then L. Ron Hubbard, Bible of the Singularity, the great siliconology, game, the great Trojan horse of this late Western culture, of the false migration of man, the planet of the apps and the Pokemons. This is the planet of the apps and the Pokemons, with a hypodermic neuron needle to the brain, singing that old tired song, Just Do It, with a Nike swastika shoved up your nostrils. And these students are sitting out on the Pentecrest in front of Old Cap, facing west, waiting for something to happen. Brewing Buddha mind with a 420 brain, while the shit for brains in D.C. haven't a clue, do you, Mr. Grassley? And the planetary cleanup crew sits with this Buddha crew, sharpening their axons, developing claws and fangs, learning to fight dirty for the fight of a lifetime, for the green fire and the green fist of no compromise in defense of Mother Earth, for the green fire and the green fist of no compromise in defense of Mother Earth, of Earth first. For this fight of a lifetime, this speaks to a transplanet inhabiting Americua, land of the winds, and crazy Zen bastards, and wavy gravy, and vermin supreme, and that low-life Attila the stockbroker of Goldman and Sachs, and it speaks of Romero in Central America, and elves in dreamtime in Martian land, merrily musing to the beat of a different drummer, a planet drummer, with Merlin in mind and made merry in two. This is a different nomenclature. This is a different nomenclature. For this nomenclature is spelled like the gnome, G-N-O-M-E, nomenclature. This is a new language here, a different nomenclature, with gnomes as the nomenclature, where nature is legislature in an ecocentric mind, with close encounters of the third eye kind, and cannabis healing the global brain, and a bioregional orchestra of the council of all beings, singing the heart song of of all the species in a symphony of all beings, a cosmic cosmogenesis symphony of all beings. And Meister Eckhart is the conductor, and Rabindranath Tagore is the first violinist. In a Mayday basket of mirth on earth, in delight of this luminous flight, sparkle, sparkle, dear friend, sparkle, liven thee up, sparkle, 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 liven thee up. It's time to rise and shine in radiance. It's time to rise and shine in radiance. It's time to rise and shine in radiance. Merry be this Beltane Mayday merriment. Be, dance around the maypole. Come dance with me. Come journey and dance with me around the maypole of this joyous unfolding. So this is the beginning of Mayday, and so this is my little May basket for you, dear friends. This is my little May basket for you, and I hope you received it well, and I hope you enjoyed the journey. Some of the language we'll cover in a minute here, but we needed to get that song into our heart, our Mayday song. All right, so we look and we see that the Mayday journey, and we look really well with the ions of a photosynthetic mind, with photons of delight in this electronic campfire, this golden eternity of this hour with GreenFire, celebrating the Beltane in each one of us, the Mayday. So this Mayday basket is as a flowering of the sixth sun. Way beyond the sixth extinction is the flowering of the sixth sun. This is Mayday Beltane Transplanet Mesmerica. So the students are sitting on the pentacrest in front of Old Cap, facing west, waiting for something to happen. Just waiting for something to happen. With the pregnancy of a spring, into action of something of great social import. Something of great social import is happening underneath the grassroots of the pentacrest, and underneath in the detritus, underneath in this bursting forth of chlorophyll, sun and green of spring, and photosynthetic dazzling light of luminescent, fluorescent joy of the journey. Something is beginning. They're waiting for something to happen with the pregnancy of a spring into action of something of great social import. Not just this spring, which is actually beginning to happen. Not just this Mayday. Not just this Beltane, which is sacred on the commons, and the turning in the telluric realm, the telluric energy field, and the turning of the seasonal wheel. Finally, after the great unlocking of March and April, clear into mid-late April, the grip of winter held sway, and finally on 420 day, it was a Hoka-Hay day, the beginning of a Hoka-Hay cannabis day, of the beginning of spring, followed very swiftly with Earth Day, and then Earth Week, and then Wesak full moon, the second full moon of the vernal equinox, the Buddha of light full moon, into turning again May Day and Beltane and the dances of the goddesses and ecstatic, bacchanalia, and celebration of ecstasy, of the return of fertility of spring. something beginning to happen beyond just the time, place, and space, and the slight turning of the seasonal wheel. There is another wheeling going on, and the slight wheeling of the seasonal wheel. This is the great turning. It is up to us, each one of us. It is up to us, each one of us, to see how this great wheel turns. It is up to us, each one of us, to see how this great wheel turns, dear friend. This is the great medicine wheel. This is the Decanawida, the sweet medicine. This is the great sweet medicine wheel of spring, a time of flowering, of bird song, of magnolia, of magnificent flowers of May. Soak it in, dear friend. Breathe it in, dear friend. Listen in, dear friend. Taste it, quaff it. Emerge into the fragrance of that magnolia blossom. A time when May baskets are caringly and lovingly prepared and lovingly given, and leave it at the door. Leave it all at the door, dear friend. Ego and all. Leave it at the door and slip away unnoticed if you can, forwarding your best smile into spring for a long, 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 long while. What does spring bring forth? We shall see, dear friend, by the sun in the green and the great blue sky open this mind. We shall see what does spring bring by the sun and the green, the great chlorophyll breath of fresh air in a photosynthetic mind of luminous kindness with a willow tree ability of agape, unconditional love. We shall see by the sun in the green and the great blue sky open this mind. Om Mani Padme Visak Beltane Full Moon Hum. Hey Yung Yung. 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 Full moon of Buddha. Full moon of Buddha light. We receive. We receive. We receive. Singing, I receive, I receive, I receive. I am God. I am God created me. I am God created me in the light, in the love, in the glory. I am God created me in the light, in the love, in the glory. I am God created me in the light, in the love, in the glory. And we amplify our hearing, and we amplify our heart song. And we amplify our heart song, and we amplify our heart song through the three Buddhas on the Pentacrest facing west, waiting for something to happen. And you can't find it in any headlines in the newspaper. You can't find it in any headlines in the newspaper. And you can't find it in any headlines in the newspaper. This new speech is not fit to print. This new speech is not fit to print, for it is written by the subterraneans and the desolation angels and the dharma bums in the hidden channels, in notes from the underground and notes from the PATV underground, in the chapel alcove of the heart. Way below zeitgeist time, perhaps a gestalt malt or a milkshake up of the mind will cool all this stuff out. Way below zeitgeist time, perhaps a gestalt malt or a milkshake up of the Rorschach mind, perhaps a milkshake up of the electroshock mind will cool all this stuff out. Out on the Buffalo Commons, out past the Cenozoic, a Freudian slip east of the Mississippi time bandits and the egozoic of the id, the superego, and the ego, the three stooges of the Western mind. Out here, moving toward the 100th meridian and the 100th monkey mind of the high-low country and the high plains drifters, just below the echozoic, just before the echozoic in synchronicity with driftless, and the moiety class of the stone people with the Moog and the maid people of blue pollen maze woman, and the great Masawa, the great teacher, the great mystery, teaching us about the false migration of the gourd of ashes, the atomic bomb, the nuclear weapons and the nuclear power plants, the gourd of ashes of the Wasichu, of the white man's ways, even though they have spokes of the great medicine wheel in the house of Micah in the United Nations, even though they have talked of coal, oil, and uranium poisoning of the earth, and extracting the coal and oil and the uranium as taking out the lungs and the blood and the brains and forming a global brain lobotomy by taking out uranium from the Mother Earth. And the Heshkes who would not be reconciled to the white man's ways, the most irreconcilable of the irreconcilables, the craziest of the crazies, who would not be reconciled to the Wasichu ways, which means eaters of the fat of the American greed, you know, to be part of the American dream. You just need to change that saying of the American dream, that you've made it in the American dream. It's the American greed. That's the American greed machine, is the American dream, is the American greed machine. And that is the eaters of the fat, of the Wasichu ways. And these craziest of the crazies of the Heshkes, of the Apache Chiricahua, would not be reconciled to those ways of greed. Even though they spoke of the true migration, these Hopi, the Moog, are known as the Moog, the Hopi, even though they spoke of the true migration, and they said, do not follow the false god of technology. Do not be seduced and beguiled and subdued by the Silicon Valley technology of cyborgs, robots, drones, iPhones, smartphones, easy way out phones, easy way in phones, joystick to hell, on the highway to hell of the internet, and their L. Ron Hubbard Bible of the singularity, which says humans will be turned into robots by the year 2032. That's what they're aiming for, is for humans to be cloned to robots and have a robot mind and become a robot, a cyborg robot by the year 2032, which is called the singularity. And that's what this dude Kurzweil Ray Kurzweil and L. Ron Hubbard talked about it, those West Coast dumb fucks, including Mark, the Zuck of Facefuck, the iceberg Zuck of Facefuck. Yeah, he's on the Titanic called the Silicon Valley. And the Bible, their Bible is the singularity. And the great siliconology. It's a con job, man. It's a con job. It's a con job. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a con job. Silicon Job Valley. Silicon Valley. Siliconology. Silicon Jobology. And you're the dupe. You know, rope a dupe. Just sign up for Facefuck. 87 million Americans have been face-fucked and duped by the Zuck of Facefuck. That's right, the silly wizard Zuck. He ain't no silly wizard. He's into your mind and owning it. And all your personal info and invasion of privacy night and day on high alert. Stealing everything you got, man, and things you didn't even know you had. He's into that shit too. Watch out, buyer beware, caveat emptor. Buyer beware, stay away from Facefuck Zuck. And because he's into the singularity, which is to make you a robot and a clone that he can order around because he knows your shit. He owns you, dude. The singularity, the great siliconology, the great Trojan horse of this late Western culture. The planet of the apps and the Pokemons. The planet of the GPS. With a hypodermic neuron needle to your brain. With a hypodermic neuron needle to your brain. Singing that old tired song, Just Do It. With a Nike swastika shoved up your nostril. Just like they shoved the dog tags of a killed military soldier. They don't shove it up his nostril, but they shove it right up his mouth, the roof of his mouth right into his nostril. That's what he's fucking doing to you. And Nike, that swastika is shoved right up your nostril like a dog tag. And these students are sitting on the Pentecrest in front of old Cap, facing west, waiting for something to happen. And they're facing west, waiting for something to happen. They're brewing a Buddha mind. They're brewing a Buddha mind with a 420 brain. While the shit for brains in D.C. are having a clue, do you, Mr. Grassley? And the planetary cleanup crew sits with the Buddha crew, sharpening their axons, developing claws and fangs, learning to fight dirty for the fight of a lifetime. This speaks to a transplanet Mesmerica, dear friend. This speaks to a transplanet inhabiting Americua, land of the winds, dear friend. And crazy Zen bastards and wavy gravy and vermin supreme are out there stalking Attila the stockbroker. And crazy Zen bastards and wavy gravy and Camp Winter Rainbow and vermin supreme are stalking Attila the stockbroker on Wall Street and Goldman Sachs in the White House. And Romero, the great saint canonized by Francis the Pope, who was the great human rights activist, who was martyred while saying Mass in El Salvador by death squads sent and paid for as the Contras by Ronald Reagan and George Bush and Dick Cheney and many other crimes against humanity criminals. And Romero, the great Romero, always remember Romero. And elves in Dreamtime in Märchenland. Märchenland is a German word, Märchen meaning fairy tales. And a lot of Märchens come from Germany, but don't exclusively exist in Germany. They're all over Northern Europe and all over the world, actually, and indigenous peoples, and elves in dreamtime in Martian land, merrily musing to the beat of a different drummer. And the elves in dreamtime on this May Day, Beltane, Maypole, May basket celebration of fertility are in a Martian land, merrily musing to dance to the beat of a different drummer, a planet drummer, with Merlin in mind and Mesmerica as our dance partner. This is a different nomenclature, for it's the gnomes naming the nomenclatura. So it is with a gnome that is the nomenclatura of the higher union. For the higher union, where nature is legislature in an ecocentric mind with close encounters of the third eye loving kind, and cannabis is the art of healing the global brain, and a bioregional orchestra of the council of all beings, singing the harp song of all species symphony, in a May Day basket of mirth on earth, and the mirth on earth in delight of this luminous light, phosphorus, luminescent, effervescent, lichen-oriented, lichen-jeweled ornament of the nature's loving, living, liquid light mind of chlorophyll and Sichuan syntheses of photon ops for our new mind of a new Atlantis brain. This luminous light of delight is in delight, this luminous light, this very night, this very day, where elves sparkle away when we sing roll away the dew, roll away. And the magical child comes out and rolls away, barefoot too, roll away, barefoot too, roll away the dew, barefoot too, roll away, barefoot, roll our barefoot into the dew, and roll away the dew. Sparkle, it's time to rise and shine with all this chlorophyll mind, and this photosynthesis satisfied mind. Rise and shine, sparkle in radiance. Merrily be, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Merry be, so mote it be this Beltane May Day. Hoka hey, I hope. And in this particular passage, we talked about Silicon Valley as Silicon wizardry is a con job. It's a con job, silly con job. It is the Trojan horse of our time. Just sign up for another contract as long as you pay them, right? Once a month. That's just right out of you electronically. You know, they just suck it right out of your account. I mean, Jesus, man, how much of a dupe are we? And you got Wi-Fi, and you got cable this, and you got direct that, direct TV, and you got internet.